Hello crafty friends, it's Donna here. We have quite a few new subscribers here, but whether you're a new friend or an old friend, you are welcome here. We're going to spend a bit of time today looking at how to create exact shades with watercolour, and I'll share with you one of the systems that I use to make that process painless. Along the way, we're going to be making a beautiful leaf-inspired card. Our starting point for today's card is the Lots of Leaves stamp set from Paper Rose Studio. I've stamped one of the leaves with Memento Tuxedo black ink, which won't smudge with Copics or other alcohol markers, and I'm going to colour these in. I've coloured 2 leaves on screen for you to see the process, but every single leaf was coloured the same. My idea for this card is to have a series of windows, each with the same stamp but with different colours in the background that reflect the colours of each leaf. And so my first step is to colour a set of leaves for these windows. I know that I want some soft, muted colours, and so as far as Copics go, a lot of the ones I have chosen have a 7 or an 8 or a 9 as their first number, because those numbers indicate that whatever follows is going to be more muted. I wasn't sure of the exact colours that I wanted, and so I've coloured 1 extra leaf so that I can play around and decide what I want once I've got them all done. And I've marked the colours that I've used for each of those leaves. When it comes to using dies to cut out coloured images, especially after they're coloured, thin stems always make me nervous. And so I'm going to use this little piece of paper, which is much thinner than cardstock, it's just like regular photocopy paper, to help me to find the exact position. I've used the die to cut a hole in that paper. Then, by carefully positioning it so that my image is dead center, and then taping it to the paper, I know I've got it in exactly the right place. Then it's just a matter of gently wiggling the die until it sort of slots into place, and taping that down as well. The same one piece of paper can easily be used to cut out all of these leaves. Next, I'm going to construct the frame for my card. I'm using the very long named Slimline Card Creator 1 Rectangles Metal die from Paper Rose. This die cuts a really large slimline card, which will be perfect for the size of leaves that I want to use today. This chart that I created years ago is such a help to me. It contains samples of the different watercolour paints that I own. I have cool and warm yellows, cool and warm reds, and cool and warm blues in this selection, as well as a couple of neutrals and a green. If you follow this diagonal line down, this is the straight shade. Then there are 2 places where each of those intersect. Hansa Yellow Light, for example, with Pyrrole Scarlet, is here, and also here, PS. In this case, it's mostly Pyrrole Scarlet, and in this case, it's mostly Hansa Yellow Light. So I've used the colour that's written out on top in a heavier concentration. There's nothing really exact about this, but what it does mean is that when I go to match a colour, I at least have a starting point. So for example, this R46 marker is not a bad match there, but it's got some fairly good matches through the middle. This might not be the exact mix that I used to make it, but at least I have a starting point. This one is in fact straight Pyrrole red. It saves me spending a whole lot of time getting close. This way I can start close and then fine tune from there. Usually in my videos, I cut a lot of that background action out, but this time I'm going to leave it in for all 6 colours and let you see the process. If anything, I was looking for matching colours that were slightly more muted than the originals, especially in the case of the last 2 leaves, which I thought were really a little bit too bright for what I was going for. So you can watch me find each colour on the chart, match that to the colours that I have in my little palette, test the paint, and then test it watered down, and then paint in each of the squares. I'm going for a gradient look, so I'm first painting a light colour across the whole square and then dropping in some stronger colour at one end and letting it flow down. It took me a couple of goes to get the first layer as light as I wanted, and so sometimes you'll see me going back in with water at the other end and letting that flow back to lighten that end. I'm going to play some music that was written by my son Darcy while you watch this process. I'll leave the first one in normal speed and then speed the process up for the others to double speed so that you can look through without taking too much time. And I'll be back at the end of that. If you're already happy with your colour matching process, then feel free to forward through to the card construction a little bit later in the video. again. Now that the panels are dry, the next job is to cut them up and rearrange them into an order that I like. I've measured the size that they need to be and also taken a photo so that I don't forget what I decided. To make my card base, I've taken a piece of 110-pound Nina Solar white cardstock and I've laid that onto my scoring board. I've put the piece of card with the windows up against the corner and scored on the first visible line. I've then folded the paper in half and cut off the excess so that the card size exactly matches the windows. I've glued the watercolour pieces directly to the card and then popped the frame up with foam tape. I spent a bit of time debating whether to use foam tape on the leaves as well, but in the end I decided to glue them flat because when I popped them up, the watercolour background receded too much and I really wanted that to also be the star of the show. I've chosen not to put a sentiment on the front of this card, and I'll add something to the middle once I decide where it's going to and what the occasion is. And if you're wondering what happened to the leaf and the panel that didn't make it onto the card, I very quickly made them into another single card, and I've put the making of that card into a 20-second clip just so that you can see what I did. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me. I hope that it's given you a little bit of an insight into how I do things in my little crafty corner of the world, and that we'll see each other again soon. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to let me know, please press the thumbs up button. And if you'd like to know what's coming up next, then you can always subscribe and we'll be sure to see each other again soon. Until then, stay safe everybody.